The Los Angeles Dodgers were rocked to their foundation when Major League Baseball officially announced that manager Dave Roberts had been suspended for 3 games and handed a financial penalty equivalent to 30% of his salary following a dramatic and heated incident that unfolded during the Dodgers game against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The punishment was severe. The reaction was immediate. And the shockwaves it sent through the entire baseball world were unlike anything the Dodgers organization had experienced in recent memory. But what transformed this already explosive story into something that nobody could stop talking about was what came next. Shohei Ohtani, the most famous and celebrated player in all of baseball, stepped forward and made a series of stunning claims that sent the entire sports world into a frenzy. What did Ohtani say? Why did Roberts receive such a harsh punishment? And what does all of this mean for the future of the Los Angeles Dodgers? When the official announcement from Major League Baseball landed, the reaction across the sports world was instant and overwhelming. Reporters flooded the Dodgers facility with questions. Analysts debated the severity of the punishment across every major sports network. Fans expressed their shock and disbelief across social media in numbers that made the Dodgers one of the most talked about topics in the entire country within minutes of the announcement going public. Inside the Dodgers' own clubhouse, the atmosphere was described by those present as tense, heavy, and deeply unsettled. Players who had always looked to Dave Roberts as a steady and calming presence suddenly found themselves navigating a situation that none of them had ever faced before with this organization. Many inside the baseball world had known that the incident during the Diamondbacks game had been serious. Television cameras had captured part of what unfolded on the field, and the images had already generated enormous attention and controversy in the hours immediately following the game. Roberts had been visibly furious during a critical moment in the late innings, engaging in a confrontation with the umpiring crew that escalated far beyond the boundaries of what is considered acceptable behavior on a Major League Baseball field. Those who were present at the stadium that night described the scene as one of the most intense and uncomfortable moments they had witnessed in years of covering professional baseball. But when Major League Baseball released the official details of the suspension and the financial penalty, even those who had expected serious consequences were taken aback by the severity of what had been handed down. A 3-game suspension for a manager of Roberts' standing and reputation is not a minor disciplinary action. It carries real weight, real consequences for the team, and a very public statement from the league about the standards of conduct it expects from everyone involved in the game. The 30% salary fine added another layer of seriousness to a punishment that made headlines from coast to coast and sent a clear message that no individual, regardless of their status or their record, is above the rules that govern the sport. All eyes turned to the Dodgers organization for an official response, and when Dave Roberts finally stood before the media to address the situation directly, the room was packed with reporters who had been waiting for hours for this moment. Roberts appeared composed but clearly affected by the weight of everything that had happened since the Diamondbacks game. He began by acknowledging that his behavior on the field had crossed a line and that he accepted full responsibility for his actions and for the consequences that Major League Baseball had determined were appropriate. He did not make excuses. He did not shift blame onto anyone else. He stood before the cameras and owned what had happened with the same directness that has always defined his approach to leadership. Roberts said that in the heat of that moment during the Diamondbacks game, his emotions had overtaken his judgment in a way that he deeply regretted. He said the competitive fire that drives him to push this team toward a championship every single season had burned too hot on that particular night, and that the result was a confrontation that he wished he could take back. He expressed his respect for the umpiring crew involved and acknowledged that regardless of how strongly he felt about the call that had triggered his reaction, the manner in which he expressed that frustration was unacceptable and unprofessional. Roberts said he had already reached out personally to those involved to express that sentiment directly. It was at this point in the press conference that the story shifted in a direction that absolutely nobody had anticipated. A reporter stood up and asked Roberts directly about reports that Shohei Ohtani had made a series of explosive claims regarding the incident and the events that had surrounded it. The room fell completely silent. Roberts paused in a way that was noticeably longer than his usual composed responses. And in that silence, every person present understood that what was about to be revealed was something far bigger than a simple disciplinary matter between a manager and the league office. Sources inside the Dodgers organization revealed that Ohtani had spoken privately to senior team officials in the immediate aftermath of the Diamondbacks game and had shared his perspective on what had taken place in a way that was described as direct, detailed, and deeply serious. According to those sources, Ohtani told team officials that the incident on the field had not occurred in isolation and that there were circumstances and tensions building within the organization that he felt needed to be acknowledged and addressed honestly and urgently. Those close to the situation described Ohtani's claims as explosive precisely because they came from someone who never speaks carelessly and whose words carry enormous weight with everyone inside the Dodgers organization. Witnesses who were present during Ohtani's conversation with team officials described the Japanese superstar as speaking with complete calm but absolute conviction. Those who know Ohtani well say that when he chooses to speak on something serious, every word is measured and deliberate, which makes what he says carry even more impact than it might coming from someone else. He reportedly told officials that the pressure and frustration that had boiled over during the Diamondbacks game was something that had been building for a period of time and that the incident with the umpires was in many ways the visible surface of something that ran much deeper inside the team's current dynamic. Ohtani reportedly made specific claims about the communication within the organization and the way certain decisions had been handled in the weeks leading up to the Diamondbacks game. Sources say he spoke about moments where players had felt that their perspectives were not being fully heard or considered and that this gap in communication had created a tension that was affecting the team's ability to perform at its highest level. Those present described Ohtani's account as remarkably thorough and said that team officials listened to everything he said with complete attention and visible concern. Freddie Freeman addressed reporters and confirmed that the mood inside the clubhouse following both the suspension announcement and the reports of Ohtani's claims had been unlike anything he had experienced during his time with the Dodgers. Freeman said that Roberts is someone the players deeply respect and genuinely care about as both a leader and a person, and that seeing him face a punishment of this nature was difficult for everyone in that room to process. Freeman also addressed Ohtani's reported claims carefully, saying that Ohtani is someone whose words always come from a place of genuine concern for the team and that whatever he shared with officials was shared with the sole intention of making the Dodgers better and stronger. Freeman said the team understands that great organizations are not built by avoiding difficult conversations but by having them honestly and with courage. He said the players believe in each other, believe in this organization, and believe that what feels like a storm right now is ultimately something that will bring them closer together and make them more focused on what they are trying to achieve this season. Freeman's words carried a quiet confidence that seemed to reflect a belief shared by many inside the clubhouse that this difficult chapter would ultimately serve a larger purpose. In the days that followed, sources confirmed that team officials had taken Ohtani's claims seriously and had initiated a series of internal conversations aimed at addressing the concerns he had raised. Roberts, despite his suspension, remained in close contact with the organization and was described by insiders as fully engaged in those conversations and genuinely committed to ensuring that the team emerged from this moment in a stronger and more united position than before. When Roberts returned from his suspension and faced the media for the first time, he spoke with a clarity and a resolve that silenced every question about whether this episode had diminished him as a leader. He said that the most important thing he had learned from everything that had happened was that leadership means listening as much as it means leading. He said Ohtani's willingness to speak honestly had reminded him of exactly why the Japanese superstar is not just the greatest player in baseball but one of the most remarkable people he has ever had the privilege of working with. The Dodgers had faced one of the most turbulent moments in their recent history. And when the dust settled, they stood not divided but more determined than ever before. Thank you for watching. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Subscribe to our channel for more interesting and up-to-date Dodgers coverage.